Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of The Suspense is Killing Me. I am overjoyed with today's guest, Chad Lutzke. What's going on, Chad? How you doing, man?
Hey, how you doing, man? I'm doing good. Thanks.
Yeah. This has been a long time coming. I was, trying to connect with you a couple months back. I've been hearing about how awesome you are the whole time from Zach Bohannon, mutual friend of ours. So Zach's like, "Hey, have you met Chad yet?" I'm like, "We're getting there, man. We're getting there." And we were able to get this together. It is early February. Dude, you've got a book coming out. Like, you just had a book out and you got another book coming out in 2 weeks. So by the time people hear this, it'll be the week of the launch. We'll be within a week of the launch, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But dude, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate
I appreciate you having me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you've got so much going on, man. Like, this is great.
I do.
So that
Too much.
Yeah, well, it keep you busy, keep you moving, man. So how long have you been writing? I mean, you've been pumping out fiction for a while.
I mean, a decade this year, a decade in May, I think is when I wrote some short stories, I think around 94. And then got married, started a family, got addicted to World of Warcraft, got just really busy with all kinds of stuff. And then I didn't write for 20 years or something like that. And then there's a kid that I met. He's the son of, well, he's not a kid now. He actually just got out of the, is it the Army or Navy or something like that? Shout out to Ian. But his dad and I were best friends, and I met him, and he's like, "Yeah, I've been writing." And I was like, "Writing, really?" He's like, "Yeah, I just got published." I was like, "You're 17." And so he started telling me about this whole like publishing world. And I was like, "So what you're saying is you don't have to send hard copies in a self-addressed stamped envelope anymore." He's like, "No, dude, you just email stuff. People do email now." I was like, "Really?" And that was part of my big problem why I didn't want to. I just didn't have the patience.
Yeah.
And when I found that out, I wrote a story to a magazine and got it published. And I was like, "That's it. This is me. I'm a writer now." And I started this blog, and I got a website. And that was May of 2014.
Oh, wow.
And then I just started writing, and then I wrote for a couple magazines like Famous Monsters of Filmland and Room Oregon. But it kept getting short stories published and writing novellas, and started self-pub, a lot of those. And then I wanted to remain like hybrid. I sold a lot of short stories and stuff like that. But yeah, only 10 years. I mean, I guess that's a long time, but not in comparison to maybe some other people who've been doing it, a lot longer. But yeah, I'm going to be 54 this month. And so I didn't even start until, I was in my 40s.
Well, you don't look it, dude.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. And I didn't start again until my 40s. So we're good. Yeah. You talked about you took 20 years off. I did kind of the same thing. I joined the military and was doing that for 22 years. So I had 25 years between writing and writing.
Yeah.
And that's awesome, man. I'm really glad that you came around, to writing, and that you stuck into it and you did it. And that's a lot. That's a lot, dude. And that was heyday times for self-publishing to kind of take off. So you kind of walked into the self-publishing.
I think I missed the what do they call it? The Kindle Gold thing.
Oh yeah, the Gold Rush
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I missed that. And there was, when you're new like that, you like get involved with groups that are like, do this, do that. And then you're like, you start to realize how small that group is, or that maybe it's like, you're not going anywhere. And then you kind of go to another group, and they're kind of like stepping stones for each. Not that you're using these people. It's just that it's good to network and to continue to network broader, and eventually make friends with, people who know more about what they're talking about.
Right.
Otherwise, you can get stuck in this thing where it's like, well, this isn't Zach, for example, our good friend Zach Bohannon. He writes, the thing that he does not work for me. It never would. He has a niche that's popular.
Yep.
And he writes a series, and he does rapid release and stuff. I write the most original thing I can possibly think of that hasn't been done before. I come up with a cover that hasn't been done before. And it kind of, every time I do this, it doesn't do me any favors. But it's like where Zach, and I'm sure Zach would be the first person to tell you, the covers that he has for some of his books, we've seen that cover 100 times on other books that are, but it's important because it tells you, people love familiarity, and when they look at a cover, they want to know exactly what they're getting. And when you see that the back of some girl with a crossbow looking at abandoned buildings and ruins, you know exactly what kind of book this is.
Right.
And yes, it's the same cover that we've seen before, but I go the other route. I write the standalones. I don't write novels mainly. I mean, I've written some. I mainly wrote novellas. I come up with original concepts that I feel like haven't been done before, and all of that doesn't make me any money. So, I mean, it does, but it's harder. If I would have just, but if I would have followed like Zach's thing, he's like, well, do this or whatever. It doesn't. Amazon ads would be a good example. They work really well, but they work really well for somebody in a series.
Yes.
If you got a 10-book series, all you have to do is advertise one book. I've got like 20 books out.
Yeah.
That's 20 different ads.
Yes.
So it's a whole different thing, man. And I'm well aware that where the money is at and where book sales are really at is series. People love their series.
Yeah, it is. It's a big thing. I mean, as a series writer, I enjoy it because I need that. I guess I need that. I don't know what it is, like that adrenaline shot of finishing a book and moving into the next one. But at the same time, I don't have to leave my characters behind. And I'm a little heartbroken knowing that, by the middle of the summer, I'm going to be done with this trilogy I'm writing. It's 3 novels. And then I'm like, I'm already starting to feel sad about leaving this little world behind. I'm like, I don't want to stop writing these books, but I know I have to. So, but I mean, it is a real thing. I mean, like you said, there's a different type of audience for that type of approach. And I mean, this actually brings up a really good question, because when I was looking at your stuff, I almost always look for themes, when I first see somebody's work. And when I opened up your website, which, by the way, people go check out chadlutzke.com. Bruises on a Butterfly is the very first title, because it's your most recent release. On the top of your website. And then underneath that's Bed Makers, which is coming out. Right. And then below that, you've got a slew of other books that you've released in the last year. And I was looking across them and I'm like, these are all like unrelated. They're all standalone. Yeah. None of these really look like the other. So, one of my questions for you was going to be originally like, hey, what's your, if I had to put a tag on what kind of fiction you like, what type of horror you like to write, what subgenre do you usually fit in? But then I was looking and I'm like, I don't know that I can ask that question and get one answer.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, truthfully, I get bored. Like you're talking about writing 3 books, and I'm just like, writing 3 novels using the same characters and just the same like genre. I don't know that.
Does that hurt your heart?
Yeah. It's like I have like ADD or something, and then I need to like, okay, that's done. Let's get to the crime now. I already did this. Okay, then now let's go into the coming of age. Yeah. If I had to label it something, I just give it like a broad term of dark fiction.
Yep.
Because none of it is really that happy. Most of my books have definitely glimmers of hope. There's a couple that are just absolutely bleak right to the end, that have no hope whatsoever. But and a lot of them are sad. I'm known for being like the heartfelt horror guy. That makes people cry and stuff like that. Through Bruises does that. Bed Makers with John Bowden does that. Bruises is more of like a straightforward like coming of age horror, whereas Bed Makers is more of crime thriller. But they're both John writes sad stuff too, and I don't know. We're not depressed people. It's just it's what we like to write about. So, but I've written crime noir humor too. That feels very much like Joe Lansdale. I wrote a Western. That people are calling, these splatter Westerns or whatever.
Yeah. Is that How the Skin Sheds?
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, oh, it's an interesting cover. Cause at first I didn't think Western. you know, but
Yeah.
then I saw the two characters. I'm like, well, that's very clearly Western.
Yep. But I
That's
normally stay away from anything that has to do with anything supernatural. I just don't really enjoy. I like writing like real life horrors or dark situations that someone might go through or someone could go through. And so, I mean, I've written a handful of, definitely my share of supernatural stuff in short stories, but not really in my books. I guess Bruises would be, even though it's not supernatural, it's a little bit more sort of cosmic. It has to do with even maybe even a little bit sci-fi, a little bit.
gotcha.
But yeah, people often say my stuff isn't really horror at all anyway, that it's horror adjacent, and
Right.
I agree. But then again, some normie who has never read anything beyond, Nicholas Sparks or something, if they pick up one of my books, they're going to be like, "Oh, this is horrifying," So
Yeah. And that's when you're like, let me introduce you to Brian Bowyer.
yeah,
Which
yeah,
we were both talking about how awesome Brian is right before we came on. And we're both reading Old Too Soon. I just finished it like literally an hour before the podcast, and you're in it right now. And I was like, dude, I'm struggling a little bit in my mind how I'm going to write this review for this book. My initial review is goddamn, like it's
yeah.
a brutal book. It's awesome. It's great. I enjoyed every minute of it. I didn't put it down, but yeah, you just share that with them if they think you're too extreme. And you'll say, no, check this out. This is fun. So tell me a little bit about Bruises on a Butterfly. Where did you get the concept for Bruises?
Well, I'm a huge coming of age fan. I've written a lot of it. I don't know why. Just I thought I had one idea. Once I got that out, I wrote a book called Foster Homes and Flies, and I was like, cool, got my coming of age thing done. And then I've written like 6 or 7 more. I don't know. And this is just another one. I guess I like getting to the head of a young boy who's just learning about life and trying to figure things out and just recalling those days, reminiscing. Maybe it's nostalgic for me. I don't know. But this deals with a very small tribe, 3 friends who built a fort in a Michigan cornfield. And one of them runs away from an abusive home and decides he's gonna live at the fort. And one night, something happens that starts to change him, and his friends have to come together and try to help him. But to answer your question, I think the original idea came from, I was watching the Nicolas Cage movie Color Out of Space.
Oh,
and
I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, there's a scene in there where I only saw it once, and I can't remember exactly what happens, but there's either a woman or a boy, I can't remember, I think it might be a woman, who gets struck by this like lightning thing or something, and she starts basically melding together, like her melting, like her limbs and all that stuff, and she's kind of like this blob of flesh. And I just thought, man, that is cool. That looks cool. And so I just I kind of took that image, and I thought I'm gonna like use that like image of that, and the rest of it. I'm a pantser, so a lot of everything else just, oftentimes I'll just have the idea, like a morsel, sometimes an ending as well, and then I just start writing, and then things kind of unfold. So it wasn't really. I don't have any other than that. I don't really have any cool story to tell you how I came up with it.
That's actually pretty cool. I mean, coming of age is so. It's so, like you said, it's so relatable.
Yeah.
And I really find that it's like I empathize a lot with coming of age MCs. So yeah, that's great. And did you do the cover on that one, or was that generated?
No, that's Francois Valancourt did it.
Okay, gotcha.
He's a great artist. He's done some, I think, some limited Stephen King stuff, and but yeah, he's been around. He's good. He's a good artist. It's a great
Now,
topic.
did you have any music that kind of used as inspiration while you were writing that book? Was there something that was just like, do you write with music going, or do you not listen while you write?
It depends. Most of the time, I do not write with music because it distracts me because I'm a musician and or
You get
maybe
pulled
this
in.
isn't. Yeah, I get pulled in.
Yeah.
I start listening to all of the little intricacies
Yep.
and all of the way that I think musicians hear music way different than a non-musician.
Yeah.
We know what goes into my wife proves this to me all the time. Well, here's listening to a song or something, and I'm just like, man, you hear that? She can't even hear like the bass in a song, for example,
Right.
which I can understand why someone might not be able to pick out the bass.
Right.
And so, but a musician knows all of these little things and all the little nuances and stuff. And if it's something that's I'm familiar with that I really enjoy, forget it, man. I'm probably not going to get too much work done. But then again, sometimes I have forced myself to get into a certain type of mood for
Yep.
scenes or whatever. And there have been whole books where I wrote with a very specific playlist in mind. I wrote a book called "The Same Deep Water as You." That's the title is taken from a Cure song, and I listened to the Cure's Disintegration album, and I think that's the only thing I listened to while I wrote that book. And I end up naming all of the chapters in there from songs from that,
Oh.
and I even sprinkled in a few of the dialogues, or a few of the lines. I sprinkled very organically some lyrics into some of the dialogue and stuff from the album. So it's like it's my personal, like I don't know, like I made it my soundtrack for that book. And when it came out, a lot of people found that out and they listened to the album while they read that. But that's the only one that's really, if I listened to anything during Bruises, it was probably a soundtrack for like some Italian horror film, or one of my favorites to write to is I can't remember who does it, but it's a soundtrack for a movie called Summer of '84. It's kind of like this cool synth wave stuff.
Okay.
I really like that a lot. So if I do write to music, oftentimes it is soundtrack music. But like I said, there have been. I remember building a playlist for something, and it had a lot of real somber stuff. Like what's the Del Rey chick's name? What's her name?
Oh, Lana Del Rey.
Yeah, it had some of her, like Mazzy Star, some of Danzig's slower stuff, more bluesy stuff, and things like that. It was a certain tone.
Yeah.
I think I did that for The Pale White. I can't remember, but and then for Skullface Boy, because the protagonist is a big Ace Frehley fan, I listened to mostly Kiss. And
I was about to say, you can't get past that. If you bring him in, or you bring them into the book, it becomes a theme automatically. I was never a big Kiss fan. I wasn't against Kiss. I didn't dislike Kiss. I just never really latched on to Kiss, but I was always fascinated by how ravenous the Kiss fans were in my life that were into Kiss. Like my bass player and I were huge into Pantera. It was like the early 90s, and Pantera were massive Kiss fans. Dime was a big Kiss fan. And my bass player, Brian, was huge into them. And I'm like, wait, are you just into Kiss because Dime's into Kiss? And he's like, no, dude, they're freaking amazing. And like every year, like he dressed like Kiss for Christmas. Like it was all this stuff. And I'm like, I appreciate your fandom, even though it's not my gig, it's pretty cool, man.
If someone doesn't like Kiss that's, I don't know, 10 years younger than me, I get it. But in the 70s, I was born in 1970. So
it's huge.
Nobody knew for a decade, nobody knew what they looked like. This wasn't like Slipknot where they had masks on for a couple of years and then took them off.
And then they were like, all right,
we're
rich now.
This is a whole, and it's like, we've done this before. Well, Kiss was like the first one to do that. A lot of their stuff was geared toward children. You had the lunch boxes and the dolls and Kiss this and Kiss that. So I had Kiss all over in my bedroom, and it was a huge. Gene Simmons was the one that I was attracted to, probably because of the whole horror thing.
Yeah,
but but yeah, most boys, and definitely a lot of girls, but most boys that grew up in the 70s, huge Kiss fans because they were just such an enigma. It's like, who are these people?
Yeah.
What do they look like? And you just rock out to the music, and they're just like these comic booky, iconic figures that are so mysterious. Now, Gene Simmons, there's nothing mysterious about him at all. You know, he's shown us everything.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
Yeah. There's no more mystery to Gene Simmons.
Plus, I only liked Kiss up to, I think it was like 1981. Like they still had their makeup on. Kiss Unmasked, which they still had their makeup on for that. But that was like the last album that I was like, I think it's because I discovered punk rock very soon after that.
Oh yeah.
And once I found out punk, I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah, very raw sounding compared to Kiss.
Yeah.
Or like an organic sound to it. You know, I think that's one of the things that, you know, that really kind of set punk apart from what else was happening, even though there was so much. I mean, it was like disco times, man. You know, like we almost forget like when punk came out, it was like so different than everything else. Like think about grunge. I mean, grunge obviously ended up commercial pretty quickly, but you know, when it first hit, it was like, wow, this sounds nothing like hair bands. You know, that was all over the place. It's like, God, I remember like 1990 just being like, please, someone save us from all the hair and hairspray and makeup and everything, even though some of it had its place. But I was a big thrash metal fan, so I was into Slayer and Anthrax and Megadeth and Metallica. And
well, that was I discovered thrash just right before I discovered punk. And so I think my first thrash record, I think Ride the Lightning, had just come out.
Oh my
and
gosh,
someone had made me a tape of that, and then I went and saw them open for Ozzy for Master of Puppets, and then, you know,
was that with Cliff?
Yeah, it was 3 months before he died.
Yeah, I was about to say, dude, he died on that tour.
Yeah.
God, that's insane, man. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was great. And I mean, I was there mainly to see Ozzy because I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan.
Yeah, me too.
And Ozzy fan. I really like the first couple albums, but but I was also there to see Master Puppets Metallica. I did not own Master Puppets yet, but because it was, I think, still fairly new. But I did have Ride the Lightning, and I did like that.
Hell yeah, man. So it's fat. Okay, I love that you brought out the point that like sometimes you can't listen to music while you're writing because it pulls you in a different direction, and it basically becomes a distraction at that point. I've had a lot of other authors on the show that have talked about how they can listen to music, but they can't listen to music with lyrics because the lyrics mess up.
Yes, that's another thing. Yeah.
So I don't tend to like, my brain kind of goes right into the book and the music is playing and kind of like fuel. But I have been writing a lot more to instrumentals than I previously did, just because I love it. And I'm writing some kind of dark, griefy kind of stuff, so it lends itself well to that. All right, man. Well, let's talk about the Bed Makers for a moment. So you wrote this with John Bowden, and what was the inspiration behind this story?
We knew that we were going to write together. The idea was, hey man, let's write a book together every year, because I love writing with John. He is probably my favorite like indie writer.
That's great.
His prose is just beautiful. It's poetic. It's not what I would write, but he does it so well. And I like him. I really like him as a person. And so we're very close. So we wrote a novella together. Actually, the story goes that he wrote a short story. He sent it to me, and I was like, dude, this short story. I mean, it was like 3,500 words, 3,000 words, 2,500. I can't remember. It was short.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an amazing story. He's like, yeah, well, it got rejected. I'm going to send it out again somewhere else. I was like, okay, man, good luck. I was like, but I think it needs something else. I think that instead of sending this to some anthology where a few people are going to read it the first couple months, and then it's going to be lost in this anthology where nobody is ever going to see it again. It deserves more, and I think that you should turn it into a book. He's like, I am not doing that. And so
you're like, what if I do it for you?
he got, well, it's pretty much what I said. He got another rejection letter, and I said, I'm telling you, dude, this deserves to be like a book. And I even told him, I was like, I'd help you with it. We could do this together if you wanted, because he didn't really want to touch it or tackle it or anything. He thought he would ruin it. And I was like, oh, I got some great ideas. And he said, well, I'm going to send it out again. I said, okay, but I hope it gets rejected because I don't want to see this story be buried into something. So it got rejected. And then I told him my ideas, and he's like, all right, man, have at it. So I sent him, I don't know, 2,000 words back of and he's like, okay, I think I like this. He was very sensitive at first about it because this is his baby, and I was very respectful. Anyway, we ended up adding another, 15,000 words to this thing and some new characters and stuff like that. But the very beginning and the very end were like the John Bowden sandwich. They remained intact, and everything in between. And it's we got a lot of great response from that. That was, like 5 years ago or something like that. I think maybe longer, maybe more like 6 or 7. And I always thought we'd write one a year. We'd do something, start from scratch this time rather than using the skeleton of his. So, but we both got busy with stuff. And then finally in 2020, I think it was, we started writing the Bed Makers, which was it's called something else at the time. Like it had a joke title, like Grave Diggers with a Z. It was told we were just joking around, like so great cool. Dirty grave diggers, something like that. But
you could have called it the Bed Makers with a Z.
Yeah, but it was just we knew it would never
just a throwaway title.
Yeah. So it took us like 3 years to write it because we both had so much going on, especially me, and he works crazy hours. So with his job, so. I don't remember the initial genesis of this other than I found an article of a guy, and I think he's from a different country, Russia or Poland or something. And he was storing girls. I think he was grave robbing recently deceased girls and making dolls out of them and preserving them in his house. And there were several in his house.
Wow.
And I saw this article, and it had pictures of these dolls, and they were very creepy. And I sent it to him, and I was like, hey, I got an idea, because we already had kind of like some bones for this story that we were going to do. I was like, what about... So even hearing all of this, it gives nothing away in the Bed Makers because there's hardly any of that idea in it. It just... The cool thing about collaboration or just writing on your own is the ideas give birth to more, give birth to more, give birth to more, and then that the end product looks nothing like the genesis sometimes.
Right.
And so, but when you're collaborating, I think it's important to just constantly throw ideas out, even if you're just, it's like you're throwing that your friend, your co-author is they're just like this dartboard at this wall, and you're both act as walls, and you're throwing stuff back and forth to each other. Even it doesn't matter how dumb it might sound, because that thought could trigger a better idea from your friends. So you're just shooting these sparks,
right? And
some of them are going to catch fire. And that was one of the sparks, was that, and that it turned into something completely different. But I remember that being one of the things, and I recall being happy with what we had, because the writing was so well, but done well. But the story itself, I said, dude, this is boring. We've got to do something.
So this was round 1. You guys drafted it, and
no, this was after we had written like 10 or 12,000 words.
Okay, gotcha.
And then I was like, the writing is really good, but this book is boring. We're looking at it through biased eyes, and but your average reader is just going to be like, anytime, guys. When's something gonna happen? So I said, we gotta, throw some stuff here. We gotta make stuff happen. And that day we came up with so many cool ideas that changed the whole course of the book. They got really excited about it. And then soon after that, it didn't take us long to finish it after that, maybe 3 or 4 months.
Wow.
And then Joe Meinhardt from Crystal Lake Publishing had actually sent me an email stating that, because he had published The Pale White, and he really loved that book. And he's like, I'm not getting a lot of stuff in that I'm super happy with. Do you have anything? And I was like, well, I'm writing a book with John Bowden. I'll send it to you when we're done. It's like, perfect. And he read it and he's like, I want this. This is, I love this book. So it's one of the best things I think both John and I have written together or separate. I think it's one of the most accessible things as far as it's not too weird or anything. It's kind of a straightforward crime thriller. It has some great twists, lots of cool things going on, and definitely tons of heart, very lovable characters. And I could see it being, we're not marketing it as a horror book. It's just not.
Right.
But I think it would make a great movie, and I'm really excited and very, very proud of what we've done. And hopefully we will write. I had an idea for a book called Trailer Park Coven. It's about just these white trash women who start this horrible coven in the trailer park, and it's supposed to be kind of a some comedy.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, like a kind of a grit lit comedy thing. Yeah. And we did start that years ago, even before the Bedmakers, and hopefully we'll get back to the Trailer Park Coven.
Nice. So the Bedmakers, to me, when I first saw it, I thought a horror, because you write horror. Not all, you don't write horror exclusively, but you write a good bit of horror. But after hearing you talk about the story, I could see where you could, this could be in like a crime kind of thriller kind of world. The cover is amazing. I mean, we were talking a little bit before about covers, because you do some custom cover designs, and I had asked you, hey, did you make this cover? And you had said that this was someone that Crystal Lake had hired to do.
Joanne Widomska from,
beautiful,
I believe, Poland, but I could be wrong. But I think she's a Polish artist. And,
she nailed it.
She did a great job. Yeah, she did a great job.
Really
we wanted
cool.
something that was a little ominous, but said just enough to go, what's this body in this car? What's going on here?
Right. And
which is a big part of the story.
And this thing comes out February 13th. So if you guys are listening to this, we're close to the publication date on the publication of this podcast. But if you're listening to this in the future, it's out. It came out on February 13th.
And that is my birthday, so you're obligated to buy
what?
it.
Really?
Yeah. Joe asked me what date did I want, and in February, and I saw that the 13th was on a Tuesday, which is when most books are released.
Yep.
And I was like, ooh, that could really manipulate some buyers into grabbing this book if I tell them it's my birthday.
Yeah.
I was like, let's do the 13th.
Yeah. You got to play that up, man.
All part of the hustle.
Well, I will definitely shout to the rooftops about it on social media that week.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's going to be a really active week, and I'm really looking forward to seeing that book, man. I'm going to have to grab a copy as soon as it's up. Now, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say there currently is a limited edition through Thunderstorm out right now. There's 60 copies. I think there's still some left. Those usually go pretty fast. It's an expensive book. It's $110, but people like to collect books.
Yeah, collectibles, man. They're
so
big deal.
It might be gone. Probably will be gone by the time this airs, but if not, you can go to Thunderstorm and check it out.
Nice. So is that thunderstorm.com?
Thunderstormbooks.com.
Okay. Yeah. That's like that would be an awesome. Imagine getting that URL. All right, let's see. Thunderstorm. All right, I'll check that out, man. See if I can get a link in the show notes. So tell me a little bit about Patreon. You've got a Patreon. I'm a big fan of subscriptions for authors.
Mhm.
I don't even care what genre you're in. As a small business owner, I have a great appreciation for diversifying your portfolio and the way that
Mhm.
people can access you and all the things. Tell me a little bit about your membership.
Um, I don't have any kind of like set structure where I'm too busy to have like, well, Tuesdays are for this and Wednesdays are for the, or anything
Right.
like that. So
Right.
I try to I treat my patrons as though they are just like my best friends that live across the street that hear all of my secrets.
Nice.
So they get to see like everything first, cover reveals. Here's what the mock-up looked like, or here's what the crappy drawing looks like. All this behind the scenes stuff. Um, there's been a couple books that I've written for them to see as first drafts, and they can just read it at the ugly stage. It's not so ugly because I tend to edit as I go. So by the time I'm done with the first draft, it's pretty clean. But
Nice.
I'll post chapters at a time. I've done one where I wrote short stories exclusively for my patrons, and then I took those short stories, and the higher tier patrons get to be in a short story, and they also get to choose um, the theme of the short story. And I took those short stories and I released an anthology, or I'm sorry, collection called Spicy Constellation and Other Recipes. And it was the paperback is uh, Patreon exclusive. So unless you're Patreon, you can't get your hands on the paperback unless it's on Amazon for $263 or whatever. I set the price astronomically high so that no one would buy it because it was the only way that I could, because it's independently released. It's the only way I
Right.
could get copies made, buy them myself, and have them offered to patrons. But there is a hardcover version, and then the Kindle is available too. But the paperback that has an alternate, the original that has the alternate cover, is you got to be a patron to get your hands on that. But they seem to really like that. And right now, I'm toward the end of writing it's not really a choose your own adventure. It's more like it's choose your own adventure in the sense that that's how we're writing it. So,
Mm,
but that's not how the book's going to be read. So it's like
gotcha.
my patrons, I put up polls and they're like, what genre? And I'm like, what genre? Okay, it'll be like multiple choice. Here's 4 or 5 different things. Which topic would you guys like to pick? And then some people will throw different ideas out, and so it's turned into this uh, crazy, wacky, splattery, bloody thing that I wouldn't normally write just because of some of the answers that they're giving me. It's outrageous. I don't even know if I'm going to, and I gave it a beautiful cover, but I don't even know if I'm going to make it available to the public once it's actually
Yeah.
released. I may just make it another Patreon exclusive,
Yeah.
and then get copies of it, and then make it available for like $15 or something, postage paid, to patrons. And I do videos, Q&A type of stuff. But yeah, I really like to, and then everybody gets listed in each book. I've got a gratitude section, except for Bruises did not offer me a gratitude page. So,
Mm.
but my patrons are always listed in the back of that.
That's
And
awesome, man.
yeah, all that kind of stuff.
How long ago did you start that?
Maybe 3 years ago, I
Very
think,
cool.
something like that.
Yeah, so you might have some OGs in there, man. You might have some people that have just been along for the ride, you know?
For sure.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's
People in
great.
there
So
been there
yeah,
for
I
a
mean,
long
if
time.
you guys are like diehard, Chad fans and you want to jump on his Patreon, go check it out. It's patreon.com/Chad Lutzke. It's you won
Yeah.
in.
That'd be cool. Oh,
That's
and
awesome.
if you're a $20 patron, which is my highest tier, then you get free paperbacks whenever I have a book released. I just sent out today to um, for the Bruises, and then when Bedmakers comes out, the $20 patrons get again, another free book. And then
Nice.
the $5 patrons get, if you've been a patron for at least 3 months at $5, then you just get you get all my books on Kindle for free.
Awesome, man. Very cool. So yeah, I mean, like I said before, I'm a big fan of the subscription and membership options for authors and readers. And I think this is a really cool way for you to connect with your true diehards. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I hope that they see that the same way. Like I'm glad you put that on your website, because that's how I found it. So go check out the website and then go check out Chad's Patreon. All right, dude. I promised that I would explore an area outside of the writing and the things related directly to the writing. And we talked about music a bit, and you and I both have a bit of a musical background and everything. But you surprised me when you told me that you had just launched a brand new YouTube channel called The Creepy Couch.
Mm-hmm.
And you and your wife are making these really cool reaction movies or reaction videos. Could you tell us a little bit about Creepy Couch and what you guys got going on there?
Yeah. In November, I just got finished with writing I finished a book in October, and then NaNoWriMo. I don't know how many people know what that is. Most people do who bother writing or whatever. I wrote another book during November, and then started another one. And then I have not written since November, other than I think some stuff for my Patreon page. So it's because I have invested a bunch of money and time into learning different stuff like lighting and cameras and all that kind of stuff to launch a YouTube channel with my wife. And we cleaned out one of our extra bedrooms, and it's a studio, and we have a couch in there, and it's a creepy couch, and we sit on it and we watch horror movies. I am like the horror aficionado, but I haven't seen all of them. So initially we were going to do, well, let's watch these movies my wife hasn't seen, because she doesn't mind horror, but she certainly doesn't seek it out.
Right.
And there's plenty she hasn't seen. But as we did one that I had already seen and she hadn't, I realized this isn't a lot of fun. So we're sticking mainly to stuff that I have never seen as well.
Oh.
Or that it's been so long since I've seen it, I don't even really remember anything about it.
Nice.
But I'm a fan. I'm a fan of reaction channels, but not reaction channels who use. I should say I'm a fan of music reaction channels.
Right. Me too.
I think there's something about it, gives you that feeling of like when your buddy comes over and you get your records out and you're turning somebody on to something. It gives you that same kind of like dopamine or whatever that you're kind of getting off on this new music that they're hearing for the first time. And so watching these reactions to people that really appreciate some of your favorite songs, especially some of your favorite parts of songs where that gives you goosebumps, I dig that a lot.
Yeah, me too.
And then you have reaction channels for other stuff, and one of those is movies. And a lot of those are just like a repetitive jump scare stuff, like oh that's gross and stuff. So I told my wife, I was like, I would like to do this, but we have to make it funny. We have to do it differently. And so that's what we did. And that's why it's taken so long, because the editing in a single video takes forever because of the extra stuff that we do. And it's a
lot of work.
There's some like cutaway Family Guy-ish type cutaway scenes, very brief within the videos. We usually end them with some kind of very short blooper reel, but the meat of it is, it's more like, I feel like it's after editing so many of these, yes, the reaction is there and you get to see our thoughts. And so in that movie that, the chick gets sawed in half and you want to see how my wife is about to gag, then yes, you get to see all that. But it's the relationship between my wife and I, and seeing what 32 years together has like built.
Yeah.
It's not that we're the old couple that fight. It's just I don't know. As I'm watching this, and I'm hearing from some early feedback from friends and family, and they're just like, I guess the word wholesome was thrown around to see people who really get along, that know each other that well. Um, so that's part of it too, and it's definitely different than your average reaction channel. That's for sure. At least go there and give me a sub, because I'm trying to monetize this stuff.
I was telling you before, I subbed today when you told me about this, and it's, by the way, it's at youtube.com/@creepycouchreacts. If you guys are interested, Creepy Couch Reacts. Dude, your video. So he loaded a video 3 hours ago, right before we came on, and we got to talk. It's up to 45 now. It was at 31 when we started. So
it's not too bad considering. This is I launched the channel 6 days ago, and
it's great.
I think we had 174 subs today.
Yeah,
which is it's not too bad. I mean, I need 1,000, and then I need 4,000 hours viewed before we monetize. But my good buddy Jason Brandt, who's a fellow author, and he is on. He's one of the co-hosts with me on Final Guys, and the other co-host on our podcast, Bleeding Page podcast. And he has a very successful YouTube channel where he's doing not the same thing. He's doing like So Bad It's Good movies. And he has a group of friends and or his wife. It's a completely different format, but it's entertaining and it is funny. I am my channel. If you see the two, they're definitely not like each other. But he has 94,000 subscribers.
Wow!
And he had a channel, and then he decided, you know what? And he just quit writing, and he put everything he had into these movies, and he just was putting them out twice a week. And so I was like, well, dude, if you could do that, I can learn how to do that and do that. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I haven't been writing, and I'm kind of like resting on the fact that I have 2 books already, and I've got a couple other books already written. So it's I'm not in any hurry. 2 books coming out, 2 books already written, to get back to that. So I'm hoping for good things with the podcast, and it would be. I think it's a great way to meet people too, and have that. There's something about, or not podcast, but the YouTube channel. There's something about. If you're a fan of podcasts, you ever listen to podcasts and you feel like you know those people?
Yep.
And you're in on the inside jokes. They don't know who you are. You just know their voice. You know so much about them, and you just feel this almost part of a community. And I want that for the channel. I want people to, we would like to eventually do live streams once in a while.
Right.
But only if, we get enough subscribers and it starts to, like Jason has, when we've got 10,000 subscribers and whatnot.
Not a bad gig.
Start doing it. Yeah. I mean, his wife quit his job. He quit his job. So, and they're making,
they're making all right.
Yeah, they're having fun, and that's the coolest part is doing this with my wife, because my wife and I last year we wrote and illustrated 2 children's books, and that was a lot of fun working together.
Wow.
And I don't even know if those are on my website. I should put those up on my website.
Does she illustrate them?
We both did.
Oh wow. Yeah, I couldn't do that.
She did most of the drawings, and then I took them and I used a program called Procreate on my iPad. And I digitally painted everything, and then we wrote the stories together. It was a learning curve, because these are independently published as well, but the formatting is so much different than putting them on paperback. But they're gorgeous books, and they're for the ages of like 3 to 5.
What? Really throw the titles out there, man. Well, if anyone's interested.
Yeah, one is called "Where's My Cat Tonight?" And the other one is called, something about dandelion making a wish. I have to look this up.
That's all right. There's probably 3 times a week where I get my titles all crisscrossed, and
Dandelion makes a wish come true.
There you go. And they're true children's books, 3 to 5 years old.
Yeah.
Excellent. So hey, if you guys get a little you want a little change of pace from the bed makers, you can go check out Where's My Cat Tonight?
Yeah.
That'd be great, man. Well, I'm really excited about your YouTube channel. I'm gonna check it out. I subscribed when we got on, when you told me it existed, because I want to make sure I can watch the videos, and I'm not just saying that because I want to support you as a dude who I now know, but I'm really interested in this format because having taken so long away from culture, I was out of the game for 22 years in the military. I came like kind of back to normal life going, I missed so much movies.
Now would be a good time to bail. You know what I mean? Like back up maybe 4 to 6 years, get out of society, get off the grid, and then come back maybe in 20 years.
I mean, I spent 8 years at sea,
Yeah, you're coming back to this. This is not a good time.
Yeah, I can't. I kind of like I'm like catching up on things. People are like, "Do you haven't seen that movie?" And I'm like, "No." You didn't read that book? I'm like, "No, I didn't even know that book existed." I'm getting reacclimated, I guess you could say, to. And it wasn't like I was gone the whole time, but in that world I worked in, you ate, slept, and breathed your job. And then when you went home, you blacked out, woke up, and then went back to work for another 16 hours. So it was just like I might as well have been gone when I wasn't gone, and then when I was gone, I was gone. So you don't get these things hundreds and thousands of miles offshore. So it just doesn't happen. So I'm excited, man. I haven't seen Terrifier. Your newest video as of today on the site is Terrifier. I'm going to check that out. Now, can I watch them and still enjoy the movie afterward, or do you definitely recommend someone watch the movie before they watch your videos?
I guess we shoot it with the assumption that you've already seen the movie, but
Gotcha.
I mean, it's not full spoiler, and I can only show so much of the movie,
right, without a copyright issue.
Of course, a lot of it has to be censored, like anything. I'm very careful with the what is it called, with the parody, I can't remember where you can legally like give commentary or something, whatever that's called. It always escapes me, but I'm very careful with the amount of stuff that we use, and that I don't post anything that's really graphic. I even try to make a joke out of the censorship sometimes. So if it has to be censored, but yeah, we're not on there cussing and stuff. I just don't want to get it. I don't want to get any strikes against me for. So I'm a real good boy on there. But to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, you'd probably be. I mean, heck, I'm the type of person that thinks that you shouldn't even watch a trailer or read the back of a book. You should always go in blind.
Gotcha.
You should always go in blind. So
yeah,
because you're just going to appreciate whatever it is you're reading or watching. You're definitely going to appreciate more, not knowing a single thing about it.
Right.
Now, well, do I recommend watching Terrifier? I don't know, man. It's pretty hardcore.
Well, after reading Old Too Soon.
Maybe not that hardcore.
I don't know if I can be any further influenced than Brian has already done to me this week. Which, by the way, Brian, if you watch this, dude, good job, because you kept your promise, man. We had talked about this book in a conversation earlier, and he's like, "Oh, you got to check this out, man. It's brutal." And I was like, "Okay," and you are correct. It is brutal. So if you guys are into like the real hardcore stuff, check that out. Well, Chad, I mean, is there anything I'm forgetting, man? I mean, I've got one thing that I forgot. What's up with that Schecter behind you? What are you playing these days?
Oh yeah, that's my newest guitar, and I'd never even heard of a Schecter before. My son brought one over, and I guess they've been around for a long time. And everybody else I talked to, they're like, "Oh yeah, Schecter, I love Schecter." And I was like, "Really? I've been playing guitar since '86." In a bunch of different bands and stuff, recorded, and I've got these guitars. I've never even heard of a Schecter.
Yeah.
And so it was on sale, Guitar Center, and I paid like $300-400 for it or something. It's gorgeous.
Nice.
It's like purple pink sunburst, kind of, not really sunburst, but like a weird, I don't know. It's very sexy, but it plays nice. Yeah.
Yep. Because Schecter does have some pretty cool 7-string models too.
Hmm.
So what if you had to pick it up right now, and I'm not asking you to do this, but if you did, what would probably be the first song you played? Would it be Sabbath? Or are we going Black Flag? Like you said, you like punk, you know, what are we doing?
Oh, probably something that I had tried to, I
Not Kiss?
mean, no, to be honest, maybe because I was just learning a Kiss song that I never knew recently. And it's like, if you don't consistently play that, these riffs that you learned,
Yep.
somehow, man, you're going to forget them. Some of
Yep.
them will stick. But if you don't like really ingrain it in there for months,
Yep.
it's amazing how you can just, just lose it and not. But there are some things that I guess I spent so many hours on. Like I can play Master Puppets. I've been able to play that all the way through since I was like, I think 17, 18.
Right.
So that's been a long time, and I'm consistent go back to that. But there are stuff, that's like even that I learned like last year that it was like, man, how'd that go? Because I didn't put in those hours, whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time now. I to be honest with you, I don't even play my guitar that much.
Right.
I just don't have time. I would love to, if I could make money writing and recording music from home, that's where all of my time would go.
Yeah.
I would stop writing. I would stop doing everything and I would just write and record music. That's where my like real passion lies.
Yeah.
Is music.
It is a totally different process, but it is a very similar process. I get where you're at with that. And it's so much easier to do now, but it's still really difficult to do. It's like the time. I mean, we're in a much better position to do it now than we ever were, but it's still really tedious, time-intensive work, but it's so fun. I haven't recorded anything original in years, but I have all the gear to do it.
I recorded a song last year, or 2 songs last year. One was a cover song for a local band from 81 here in a town called the Latin Dogs. And I just, for giggles, I just recorded something from their 7-inch, and then I recorded some soundtrack type stuff, eerie soundtracks type stuff, and I sent it to Josh Mallerman because I kind of based it on an image I had in my head from his Book Bird box.
Oh.
And so I was thinking about doing a whole thing like that. And then I did some power pop stuff, and all that crap is on YouTube, but I don't really share it that much, and I don't do much of it because there's no payoff.
Yeah.
I guess at this point, I'm not in a band, so it's like, I don't have the time to just be sitting around noodling all the time. And
Exactly. Well, cool, man. Thanks for sharing that little bit about the Schecter with us. And I mean, it was just so cool to catch up with you finally and talk about your books. And I encourage everyone to get out there and check out Bruises on a Butterfly and The Bedmakers, and check out the Creepy Couch YouTube channel, support Chad and all the great things. Go out and buy a kid's book. There we go. Oh, dude, you got full paper copies, man.
Yeah.
Gosh. They're good looking books. They're good.
Thank you.
Books.
They are.
And we're gonna have to get you back when Creepy Couch blows up. You got to remember us when you're a rich YouTuber. And I can tell all my kids I know. All my kids, I got 3 kids. Tell my kids I know. Hey, I know the guy who runs Creepy Couch. I know him. I know the Creepy Couch guy. I'm gonna start calling you that. That's gonna be a byproduct of you naming the channel that. People are gonna be like, "You're the Creepy Couch guy."
That's the creepy guy on the couch.
There you go. All right, man. Well, hey, thanks so much for joining me today, Chad. And you guys know the deal. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Check out all the future episodes. And Chad, we'll have to get you back sometime this year for another run, man.
For sure, man. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thanks.